Welcome to the Lowdown Mortgage Podcast, the show where we dive deep into the topics that directly impact the evolving originator. I'm your host, Connor Bartley. Bam! And joining me today is someone who walked into the mortgage business as a single mom in her early 20s, nannying during the day and bartending at night. Got talked into taking a shot at this industry by someone who saw something in her before she fully saw it in herself, and has since spent nearly 23 years proving that instinct right. She's a top 1% originator in New Jersey, the founder of Be Happy with Your Mortgage brand, and someone who is very clearly just getting started. Megan McDermott, welcome to the Lowdown.
Hi, Connor. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
I'm excited to have you here, Megan. It's going to be a great conversation full of value, I'm sure. And
Absolutely.
It's been great getting to know you. You know, I think you're
Same.
going to bring a ton of insight to this, but I like to jump right in and just kick things off with a question. So you said your first year in the mortgage business, you were working as an assistant to a broker, and that experience basically taught you everything not to do.
Correct.
What was it like in an environment like that? And how did watching that up close kind of shape the originator that you've become today?
It is a great question. I love talking about this because I went into this business legit knowing nothing. So I was a complete sponge, just trying to take in every single thing that was happening around me without knowing what was happening around me at first. And I took a job for a true broker, and I was his assistant, his sales assistant. So I was literally learning on the job. And so, within a few months of being there daily, seeing what was going on, I quickly realized that the person I was working for was absolutely shady, just not doing things in an ethical way. And, I'm new, I'm young. Again, I'm still learning. So it took time to really hone in on what was going on. But, after a year of being in that position, I just couldn't do it anymore. And I just took a leap of faith and decided to sell mortgages on my own. I felt like I knew enough. I knew enough of what not to do. And so I just chose to do the opposite. I would, clear transparency, honesty. I know honesty is such an underrated thing, but it is a real thing. And I just kept seeing lies and things, terms changing and clients upset. And it was just yucky. And looking back, I was like thinking to myself, if I didn't have that experience, I wonder if I would have evolved into the originator that I am. I mean, I'm assuming I would, but it really gave me a clear picture on the dark side of the mortgage industry.
Yeah. And what a shame.
That I wanted nothing to do with.
Yeah. Well, I think sometimes we go through things for a reason, and it develops us in different ways. And, maybe that was just a time of development where you were seeing, what not to do, and now you're better for it.
Yeah. And it gave me the foundation, which is really ultimately what any new originator needs. I mean, with that position, not knowing anything, I learned a lot, and I needed that time. It taught me a lot of the wrong ways to do it, which was an easy transition to, do it the right way. Again, you have to remember though, this was 2003, and that's, it was we were in a different time and place. There was legit zero regulation. And I like to say it was the wild, wild west. And there was a lot of people selling mortgages from their mom's basement, is what I like to say. A lot of that going on.
So take me back to this moment though, because you're single mom working some odd jobs to make ends meet, keep the lights on, and then someone sees something in you about, hey, you're going to be good at mortgages. Like, did you believe them at the time? What were your impressions of that, and what made you decide to just roll the dice and say, I'll go for it?
So I already had a college degree. I finished school. I'm a single mom. My daughter was, 3 or 4 at the time. And I took it as an opportunity. I didn't know where it was going to lead, but I had enough faith in myself to say, you know what, I'm willing to roll the dice. What do I have to lose here? But looking back, I mean, really the reality of it is that I didn't know what I didn't know. And so this other person who was like, you should get in the business. Ultimately, looking back, it was because he knew that I had a huge network, that I didn't know that I had a huge network, if that makes sense to you. I was so in my own world of survival with my child that I wasn't looking of the big picture. And it took a long time for me to really hone in on my network, a long time, but I did have it and I had the ability to grow it. And that's what this person just saw that, I'm, I love people. I love life. I love doing the right thing. I love helping others. I sometimes I'm willing to take chances that other people wouldn't just because I have the faith in myself and I have the faith in God, quite honestly, to be able to trust in it, trust the process.
Yeah. Well, I love that there are people in this world that have just sort of a knack for seeing something in other people and then are willing to speak that into them
Actually
as
say it.
well.
Yes.
Yes, like you don't get a lot of that out there. And so those are really special people that are willing to say, you would be good at this. And it's amazing how doing that for someone can unlock something in them. So I think we forget how powerful it is.
Completely. It was one person's decision to say, I see something in you and me willing to roll the dice. And again, most people don't care. They don't really have those conversations. They're not looking to find the good in others. They're worried about themselves. So yeah, it was one of those kind of like looking back moments where I'm like, yeah, if that didn't happen, I might have been on a completely different path.
Yeah, so I just want to speak to the listeners real quick. If you are listening to this and someone immediately came to your mind of, someone that you see a talent in, tell them.
Yeah.
Just like be bold enough to say, "Hey, I think you would be really great at doing something." So anyway, I just want to plant that seed. But to move on,
I agree.
one of the things I really have grown to really appreciate about you, Megan, and getting to know you is that you're authentic, you're honest, you're very vulnerable. You'll tell it like it is. And you mentioned that early in your career, being a young woman in a male-dominated industry, that you felt like maybe you weren't always taken seriously. So you sort of leaned on what felt comfortable to you, just phone-based lead work, because it let you do your
Mhm.
job without having to be judged on anything physical. I
Correct.
mean, that's a fascinating strategic response to a frustrating situation. But how long did that carry you? And what finally made you decide to step out from being behind the phone and start being front and center, building
Yeah.
relationships face to face?
So yeah, when I got in the business, I was 24ish and, young, single mom, blonde, I had all the things that I think most adults or men just did not take seriously. And I didn't realize it at first, but it took a while. And I was like, you know what? Looking back, I'm like, it really just was my age and my appearance. It really was. And so while I was doing well, I was getting a lot of that feeling of like, you're not taking me seriously. Or, if I was potentially being up against a man who was in his fees at the time, and, who did the consumer think was going to be more trustworthy or had more experience? Obviously more experience, but I really just was uncomfortable with all of what I would consider like just negative, not negative because I was doing anything wrong, just negative feeling about me. I don't even want to say rejection. It was just more of a yucky feeling I would get sometimes. And so I didn't even consciously do this. I subconsciously just said, you know what? I'm really good on the phone. So I'm just going to continue to do phone sales. And so my business started with leads. So I'm so good at refinances because that's how I started my career. I did. Like I can put together a refinance in like a hot second because that's what I did really ultimately for years. I really didn't change my business model probably until like 2016. It's a long time.
Mhm. Yeah.
And because, for all those years, I ended up having two more children. I was trying to balance being, a true full-time mom with three kids and working full-time still. So it was just easy for me to be working from home and then like, leaving to go get my kids or do this or do that. It was when I realized I wanted to be divorced, quite honestly, that I was like, I got to start doing things differently. Otherwise, I'm going to be trapped in this situation that I don't want to be in. And, you know, I I didn't have an outside force to help me. Like I didn't have parents that could help me. And so I really just had to figure it out on my own. And that was just taking the leap of faith to say, I'm going to change my entire business model paradigm and I'm going to put myself out there. I know I can do it. It's just I haven't done it. So I had to get very comfortable being uncomfortable and start networking. And once I started networking and doing, my social media, grew, and I just trusted in myself and said, I don't really care if I don't like, X, Y, or Z. I don't care if I'm uncomfortable. I'm going to do it anyway. I know I'm good enough. I know I'm worth it. And me and my kids depend on it. So I'm going to take a risk and I'm just going to start being bold. And that's what I did.
Yeah. Well, I love that you did, because you're doing some great things, right? And things have been going well from a production standpoint, depending on your own personal standards.
Yeah, exactly.
You went from doing everything yourself at like 20 and 30 million, and to doing 20 plus loans a month once you built a team. And you said that kind of letting go of that control over your loans was one of the most important things that has ever happened to your business, but it wasn't easy, of course. We hear this comes up over and over again on the show. What was the hardest part for you of letting go, and what finally convinced you that it was
Time. Yeah. So, the mortgage business is it's an interesting place to be. There's so many different facets of it. You can only control so much. And I think that that's what happens to most originators, is that, getting the one deal. And I talk about this all the time. I don't think that people realize what it takes to get one deal in, right? What happened behind the scenes? What happened weeks before, months before, years before, for all of this to come together, for business to start coming in, right? To get referred. I think what happens is originators focus on that one deal because it means so much to them and they need to see it close. So they baby it. They want to make sure they know every single thing that's going on. They're the ones collecting every document. They're the ones putting it into process. They are so micro thinking because they want to get paid on it. And so the fear of not knowing what's going on drives them to focus solely on those few loans instead of thinking big picture. Like, I got the loan in, let the people do their job and let me continue to do my job, which is building relationships, making connections, and bringing in business. That's ultimately what the originator is supposed to be doing. Knowing the guidelines, knowing how to structure a loan, and then clearly being able to sell that to the consumer so that they feel so good about it, they choose you. And it's the letting go. And it took me a long time. Again, it's kind of the same, took me years, because I was in that same boat where, I was doing, 4, 5, 6, 7 loans a month. Maybe sometimes it was 2, sometimes it was not, but like, I didn't blow up my business. And so the minute I said, you know what, I need an assistant, I need a production manager, I want to see myself here, and I cannot get there by myself. And that is just the way that it goes. So if anyone really wants to grow their business, they have to learn to let go. And I know that is like a very cliche thing to say, let go, but it's not really letting go. It's being strategic and finding the people to do the jobs that you do not want to do anymore. And that's ultimately what it is.
That's a great way of putting it, right? Like, free yourself from the work that you don't enjoy and find someone who does enjoy that work and let them love it so great, So, because when everybody's doing what they enjoy about the job, the customer feels it, the client feels it, the referral partner feels it, everyone's happy, with what they're doing day to day. So just everybody's in a better place that way. If you're stuck doing all the work, or doing your day is dominated with parts of the process that you don't enjoy, that is a vampire on your energy, and your attitude starts to, feel it too. And so, yeah, the letting go is huge.
It is really hard to scale though, because, there's tons of originators in the United States, tons. And it is not an easy thing to do. It's not an easy thing to do. So I really think sometimes it's a crapshoot on who has it's having the vision and having the trust and wanting your business to grow. And a lot of people don't realize they're in that like tornado. They don't even know they're in it usually.
Yeah, totally. So I know, growing a team means adding new members to the team, and sometimes team members don't work out, right? It's a reality that we all sort of have to face if we're going to hire people. And, you've said that it's really just key to have the guts to make a change when something is not working. And I know a lot of people listening to this show are struggling with something along that way, or or they'd rather avoid the uncomfortable conversation. But how do you approach that conversation? And how do you balance your loyalty to a person with what's best for the business and the brand?
Great question. So I think that as humans, at least most good humans, it's an uncomfortable thing. Like it is. It's uncomfortable having to be that decision maker sometimes and knowing that you're going to potentially impact somebody else's finances, you know, their well-being, all the things. But I am one that gives lots of chances also. So I am not just a willy-nilly, I'm not good with that, they're done. No, I give so and maybe to a fault, I give too many chances, but I'll tell you why I do that. I never want anything left on my shoulders or a burden as if I've done something wrong. So I'm very clear. It has to be so to the point where this is no longer working for me to do that because as tough as I am, as strong as I am really sensitive and I'm really kind. And I don't want to make a sporadic decision unless I got to feel it. And when it gets to that point where I'm like, this is no longer working, then it's like, we got to execute the results and just move on, change the team out.
Yeah. Yeah. It's uncomfortable. I understand. And I've talked to a lot of loan officers that will literally try to find new companies to go to because the company they work with is maybe saying, hey, you might want to think about restructuring your team. And they don't want to let anyone go. And I think it's admirable to want to be so loyal. But at the same time, there's a business element at play here
100%.
too, and you got to find that balance. But on an exciting note, when we were talking, you mentioned that you had recently hired someone specifically for business development, which is
I did.
awesome. Their only job is to do marketing and outreach and things that just you don't have time for right now. And you described a situation where agents in the area know you, like you, but still don't always send the business to you. And so this person is sort of meant to be like a bridge over that gap. What does that role look like day to day? And what made you decide to hire someone to address that gap?
So I have a marketing person. And so my business development person is completely different while they kind of overlap a little bit. They are technically two different roles. Business development is exactly what you just said. In my area, I would say the majority of the agents know me. A lot of them know me. Some of them use me. Not everybody uses me, right? And I know that they like me. They trust me. They know I have a great reputation, but but the why. And I think that it is all about the relationship. So having someone else in the mix, helping build those relationships, because I can't do that all on myself. Like I am one person. And while, doing events and networking is part of the job, so is originating mortgages, structuring loans, qualifying people,
Hmm.
and getting mortgages through the door, right? So it's twofold. So yeah, her role is really just I want to almost say, in my mind, she's like my manager, but not like my manager, if that makes sense.
Okay,
As if I
sure.
was I don't know, if I was a celebrity of sorts. Everyone's got a manager, right? Because they got to put them on track and make appointments for them and do things. And so that is kind of where the role is evolving, where she's really just helping putting me in positions to grow my business, my brand, ultimately.
Yeah. I love that. And you've even gone like one step further than most people I talk to in that you actually trademarked the phrase "be happy with your mortgage." So it's not just a tagline, like you've trademarked it, and it's genuinely a business philosophy. So where did that phrase come from? And when you're sitting across from a borrower who might be frustrated or nervous about the rate or whatever's going on in the process, like what does that look like to put that into the real world?
So be happy with your mortgage was born in 2018. Like I said, I really started to change my business model in 2016 and 17. And so by 2018, I started to see the results of all of these things that I was doing for the last year and a half, 2 years in terms of, branding, networking. I really, again, I think it comes from my early beginnings and having such a yucky experience as an assistant and seeing how a lot of other people work the mortgage business. I just tend to feel like that is unfortunately still, all these years later, I do feel like there is still a negative connotation sometimes in the mortgage business with people just being ultimately shady and rate shopping and not telling consumers the truth. All the things I hear when clients then leave their existing mortgage person and then they get referred to me and I hear these horror stories, right? So I really just wanted it to be something that was just ultimately positive, had really ultimately nothing to do with mortgages, really doesn't. But it's a feel. It's almost like a lifestyle. It's like, no, we're going to be happy with yourself, be happy with your job, be happy with this, be happy with that. Why not be happy with your mortgage? And so me and my team were just brainstorming one day and I'm like, I need a line that accentuates exactly who I am without being salesy at all. I don't want that. And be happy with your mortgage was born.
I love it. It's so simple, right? And encapsulates so much. And I really love that you went so far as to trademark it. Like, I think that's super smart, right?
I own it. I literally feel like I own it. Like it is mine. And I put a lot of work into getting to the place where I could do that, where I deserved it almost. So yeah, it was a big move for me. Thank you for acknowledging that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, you also said something that I wanted to call out, which is it took 1.5 years, 2 years before you started really seeing like the fruits of the labor that you started in 2016. And, I just want to highlight that because so many people get this perception that successful people get successful overnight, or they're trying, they themselves want to be successful overnight. And it is not that easy, right? This, especially in this business, that's a relationship-based business where you've got to earn trust and kind of, earn your way there, right? And I'm trying to think of the phrase, but it's escaping me. But anyway, and you've got to go through a lot just to finally earn that respect. And so I just wanted to call out that it wasn't an overnight thing for you.
No.
And also something you did that I thought was really smart was during the COVID years, you put up a billboard and people asked, Megan, did you get any calls from the billboard? And I loved your answer. What's your answer to that, by the way?
So I was the first person in the mortgage business in New Jersey to put up billboards. I had wanted to for years before I did it. I talked about it. Everyone I worked with knew that I wanted to be the first mortgage person to be on a billboard. And during COVID, it was like the perfect storm for it to happen. Unfortunately or unfortunately. But I started to put up billboards in North Jersey. At one point, I think I had like 20 up in different locations. Yeah, it was pretty brazen. But constantly, people would be like, was it worth the money? Did you get calls from it? Did it grow your business? And it did grow my business, but not in the way that most people think. I did not get phone calls of people driving by, seeing my sign like, hey, Megan, I need a mortgage. I just saw your billboard. It maybe happened like a couple times, but the majority of the benefit of the billboards was truly just brand recognition. I always say it like, if you're on a billboard, they're expensive. It means you can pay for the billboard and you've done something right. If you can pay for the billboard to do this, right? There is a level of professionalism with that. And for me, I knew from the beginning that's what it would be, but it really did turn out that way. So like if I was on the billboard and someone drove by, they could think nothing of it. But then maybe the next day they talked to their real estate agent and their agent was like, you know what, you should talk to Megan for a mortgage. And they would be like, oh my God, I just passed her billboard yesterday. I'm going to call her. And it was lots of that. It was lots of that. And, again, someone might not think that it's worth the money. That's completely fine. For me, it was worth the money. I felt like I needed to, again, and especially as a woman, and that's a whole nother topic, just really be so aggressive in building my way to the top. And that's what I wanted to do.
Well, it's the same concept as wearing a Rolex watch or a really nice suit or driving a nice car, right? There's an implication that person is successful simply because of what, the cost of it, right? And you send a signal and then that signal is received and it can build trust and show, hey, this is an authority in this space. And that's definitely somebody I would want to work with. I'm familiar with them. Like there's that whole familiarity too that you're building. So as we wrap up here, I just want to highlight one other thing. I know you just finished contributing a chapter in a book, and that gave you an opportunity to kind of share the why behind everything that you've built. What can you share with the audience about the legacy that you're building right now?
So I was honored to be asked to write a chapter in a book called She Nailed It. It's 12 women in completely different industries who kind of went from valley to victory, coming from humble beginnings, having lots of adversity. And I don't really talk about all that stuff regularly because I don't want to say it's not important, but it doesn't impact anything talking about the why. How did you get right? But I do feel like my story is special because I had a lot of adversity. And I think, especially as a woman, being able to take all that, own it, and do something really great with it, knowing that, I am one person, but if I can do this, so can you. And just being that voice of power, clarity for other women, especially, and that your circumstances are just that. They are circumstances. And that does not mean that that's going to be your circumstance tomorrow. And we all have the ability to fulfill what we believe our destiny is. It's never going to be easy. It's not going to always look pretty, but we all have the ability to do it if we believe in ourselves. And for me, it was truly my faith in the Lord as well. So I talk about that a lot in my chapter. But I was honored that I was asked to, because it's humbling that someone else thinks that your story is worth it. So, really for me, I know that I'm doing really bold things just in life and in the mortgage business. I do want to be that safe place for others to come to be able to say, hey, you know what? I do need a little mentorship, or how did you do this? And can you give me advice on this? Because, and it's not just for girls, it is for guys too. But I do think for me specifically, being a single mom, I'm a single mom again, and just being able to have that faith and that strength in yourself. And I say it all the time. And my message for girls ultimately is never depend on anybody else. If you cannot take care of yourself, then you are setting yourself up for failure and hardship and sadness in your life. So really, that was the message in my chapter. But ultimately, with that chapter, I know that that is where my next phase of my career is leading me to, being more of a mentor, potentially coaching, and just really being an advocate for women empowerment. That's really ultimately what I feel like where I'm going to be at.
Love that. As a dad of two daughters, I love that. Is there a link or something that someone could visit to get a copy of that book if they were interested in checking it out?
Absolutely. On my, you can go to my Facebook page or Instagram page. It's being sold on Amazon. It's called She Nailed It. But I could also send it to you if you.
I'll put it in the notes. Yeah, absolutely. Send it to me and I'll put it in the notes for the episode. So Megan, thank you for being a part of the Lowdown, hopping on the show, sharing your story. For anybody who's listening,
we're going to get you to trademark the Lowdown for sure. Let's go.
Yeah, the Lowdown. I think Emerald Lagasse's already got BAM, so that's probably already taken. I hope he doesn't listen to the show and pull anything, but no, it's on the list. But no, I appreciate you being here. And for anybody who's listening, make sure that you subscribe to the show. These are the kind of stories that we put out there every day of the week, Monday through Friday. We're highlighting loan officers and the incredible things that they're doing. And everybody's got a great story. And, it's my mission to help people tell it and get it out there. And so, Megan, thank you for, hopping on, sharing your story. And I wish you nothing but the best in the future.
Thank you so much for asking me to be on the show. It's really just, it is an honor. I appreciate it. And I hope that, that you just continue to do your thing. It's really inspiring. And I really respect what you're doing. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. All right. We're